All right, Facebook Live Friday, everyone. Brian Milam and Dave Baker. Hopefully you have had a wonderful start to November. I know we did. We just had our chili cook-off in the back. And
what do you think?
I did sample all of them at least 3 times.
What do you think? Do you have a clear winner?
No, but I will have a clear nap before it's time to shoot high school football tonight.
You're saying chili has that tryptophan in it, just like turkey does?
There's something about November where you sleep a little bit more, you eat a little bit more. Certainly leads into Christmas.
Not as much sunlight.
And
remember, the clocks go back Saturday night, right?
Yeah. I thought we were gonna. I thought it was, really gonna. Someone was gonna pass a bill a year ago.
I thought they brought it up to the floor. I think they're getting closer, right? Yeah, I think they're getting closer.
I don't know how that would work, but still, I'm not that smart. But anyway.
I mean, aren't there some states, Bailey, that don't have like daylight savings time?
Yeah, part of Indiana does.
Yeah.
Part of it as well.
My mom, when she lived in Indiana.
Doesn't have.
Okay.
When my mom lived in Indiana years ago, I said, "Oh, didn't you set your clocks back?" No, we don't have to. I went, "Oh, well."
There you go.
But it's a football Friday night for high school. We've got, last night UK and K-State played. We've got UK and Mississippi State.
Yep.
You didn't bring your cowbell down here. You've got one of those Mississippi State cowbells.
That's what we should have done. We should have gotten
I think I saw some video.
Will Ferrell. We need more cowbell. When Bruce Davidson asked for more cowbell. Bruce Dickinson, that's right.
Cock of the walk, baby.
The least you could do is give him more cowbell.
Yeah, he puts his pants on like anybody else, only produces gold records.
Oh my God!
But UK football, Mississippi State. What do you think about the football Cats? 3 losses in a row. They played a lot better against Tennessee.
Yeah.
But a loss is still a loss, and there's no moral victory for the Cats last week, even though they coulda, woulda, shoulda.
What do they got? 3-4 left. 4.
Alabama.
Mississippi State, Alabama.
South Carolina,
and then Louisville.
But on the road this week, at home against Alabama, on the road Carolina, on the road Louisville.
I just think if they're anything like me and you, and just so you all know, if you don't know already, we're the kind of guys that might drop the bat and charge the mound.
Hey, doesn't take much.
After Shane Beamer and the We Don't Dance thing last year, I know Stoops hadn't forgotten that stuff. He won't say anything about it. And he's getting his. I believe I said to some people he might get his comeuppance this year. Said there was a deal in the news conference the other day. He said, "Listen, when I get busy and everything, I make sure don't get home late before the kids are in bed, but I always FaceTime every day." And the other day they told me that I was going to miss, or I had missed, a Halloween parade. And he asked his young son. He said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he said, "You're 2 and 6." Wow. Wow.
That's going for it right there.
Yeah. So I believe this is Cy's huge game right here. I mean, Mississippi State is a team year in and year out that I believe that Kentucky believes that they ought to win.
Sure.
However, when's the last time they won in Vegas?
08. 09,
08.
Like that, yeah.
I thought it was 18, but it's actually 08.
Yeah, how about that?
Now they're certainly not the team they were when the late, great Mike Leach had them going. Yeah. But Kentucky did, at times, have great success against Leach coach teams. But, I mean, dude, you're looking down the barrel. You don't win this one. I mean,
I agree.
Those big elephants coming in next week, for the noon kickoff.
Those big pachyderms from down on Alabama.
Down out of the cotton fields. But then South Carolina is probably one of those coin flip games. And same, too. I mean, don't tell me that the Brom family won't be laying in wait over there. He was just making a joke, so I'm not thumbing it. But remember what Stoops said over there at the UK Media Day when they had the Governor's Cup trophy there? He goes, "Wow, I'm kind of surprised to see that in Louisville." I'm like, wow. Well, and I don't think anybody thought they were going to be as good as they are this year.
Well, there's one thing I think fans need to know, and if you don't, we'll tell you. Both U of L and UK have a Governor's Cup trophy that they have in the trophy case.
They do?
Yes, they do.
Wow.
Yes, they do. If you also remember last year, someone dropped the trophy because the beautiful bowl that adorns the top of that trophy, someone dropped it because allegedly when they took it out of the box, the big, Army box that it travels in.
Yes, the case.
It was dented. Someone, and I don't know if they ever caught the perpetrator, but that thing comes out of the box like, what the heck is this?
So Kentucky. So which trophy goes over there this time?
The trophy.
Right, but I mean, does Louisville just pull out the one that they've got?
Know.
Or does Kentucky take the one that they have?
But I was told that each school has a trophy, because I always wondered when Louisville would win and you walked into the UK, I say, why is there a Governor's Cup trophy here? UK didn't win that year.
One Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah.
A lot of different people got the Lombardi trophy, right?
Everybody gets a Lombardi trophy.
One Claret jug.
Oh, yeah.
Right? One Wanamaker trophy for the PGA.
What a winner.
Everybody's got a World Series trophy.
Everybody
That's
gets one,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, there was one year UK had lost to Louisville. Let's say it was Lamar Jackson or somebody, I don't know. And I went into the UK area. I thought, now why is there a Governor's Cup trophy here? And there's no UK loss last year. Didn't know. And then I was told by someone at UK that each school has one, basically. So just a slap in the trophy case.
Like back in the days when they played Tennessee for the beer barrel.
Yeah.
One barrel.
That's right.
Which is still down in the Tennessee equipment.
And I really believe it is time UK and Tennessee put their intelligence together and come up with a traveling trophy. It doesn't have to be the barrel. I understand why they removed it. No problem with that. But, you know, we've got thoroughbreds here. Tennessee certainly has show horses down there. Come up with something. You know,
they could reinstitute the barrel.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, both places are serving now, right?
You've got bourbon and whiskey and things in between. There's got to be something. I mean, U of L and Cincinnati had the keg of nails for a long time. But then they're like, well, it's got the word keg in it. I'm thinking, oh, brother. Anyway.
Which has never been a part of the great history of the city of Cincinnati, right?
Louisville.
That'd be like taking bologna out of Cincinnati, right? With all those meat packers up there.
But the Cats they've got to win. They've got to win in Starkville. And it's not going to be easy. You know, it's going to be tough. And but if UK can pass the football the way they did against Tennessee, they're going to have a much better shot. I thought Tennessee stacked the box on UK to the point that they said Ray Davis is not going to beat us.
And that's exactly what everybody will do going forward. No question.
I think you have to.
Right?
Why not? What do you think of the UK basketball Wildcats against Georgetown a week ago and then K-State last night?
Georgetown, I thought, was a really good look.
It was.
You know, I'm biased, but I think Briggsy's got a great chance of winning an NAIA national championship. They've got a veteran team.
Oh, yeah,
they were not afraid to go at those talented UK guys. But whether it was last night or last week, I mean, this UK team is just a shell of what it can be unless those big guys get back.
Right.
And that thing just keeps getting murkier and murkier. I think we're getting closer and closer to getting the Big Z back.
Hope so.
I hear that Ugo is not as far along as they would like him to be right now, and that he's wearing some sort of something in practice, you know, I don't know whether it's to stimulate healing or, you know, I don't know exactly what the injury is. And then Aaron Bradshaw, doesn't that thing just continue to perplex you? I mean, because
injuries are strange because no one really knows the extent of any injury, and I think the fan base should not know the extent of every single injury.
It's the kids' purview. But I guess what I'm saying is you're talking about a period of several weeks, okay, where he's not doing much.
Right.
Last night, he'd been out shooting and getting in some stuff and just went sprinting off the court. And then, I don't know if you saw it earlier this week, he posted on his Instagram, he was in the gym, and it was clearly over in the craft center, at like 1:42 in the morning, and he was all lathered up. And I'm thinking, a guy in that kind of shape, he just ain't getting lathered up unless he's getting some work in. So, right. I understand, the need for privacy and all that stuff, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're now less than 2 weeks before Kansas.
Right.
Okay, you talk about Stonehill and New Mexico State or whoever you want to talk about. You know, maybe they'll be. But you better have one or two of those guys when you go against Kansas. And as John Short would say, they're big uns.
UK's got 21 feet 4 inches of humanity not playing right now. And all three have different skill sets, obviously, so we'll see what happens coming up. UK tips off the season, what, Monday night it
right.
is?
New Mexico State, 7 o'clock. Yes,
so
sir.
We're going to send Lee King Howard III over there since he's a New Mexico boy.
Oh, that's right. Can't stop Clovis.
Can't even hope to contain him. The big news this week dealt with the passing of Robert Montgomery Knight. Bobby Knight, the longtime coach at Indiana, known for this against Purdue in 1985. That is what he is most famous for from non-basketball fans, probably, is the chair toss. But a fiery competitor, a 3-time national champion, the last undefeated national champion in '76, Olympic gold medal winner, Pan Am coach with Kyle Macy and company in 1980, I believe. And thoughts about Bobby Knight?
Great coach. Absolutely used tactics that you just couldn't use today.
Yeah.
You think back several years ago, who was the guy? What was his name? Rice, that got fired at Rutgers for like whipping the ball at players and stuff like that. I mean, that's like kid stuff there. I mean, it was all chronicled in the book that kind of put John Feinstein on the map, that Season on the Brink.
Yeah. They lost to Cleveland State that year in the first round of the NCAA tournament back in '86.
That's right, and that famous rant filled with expletives. I didn't come here to get my butt kicked by Purdue every year.
Yeah.
He could be a fiercely loyal friend.
No question.
He was a coach who no doubt impacted people's lives, but he just had no governor. And, he just said something, there was the infamous Connie Chung interview.
Oh, yeah.
Where he said if somebody was getting raped or something, they should just lay back and enjoy it. There was an altercation on campus with a student that probably led to him being gone. Back when Kyle Macy was playing for him at the Pan Am Games, he took I don't know if it was an usher or a cop from there, but stuffed him in the trash can.
Right.
When he was coach at Texas Tech, he got in a fight with somebody at a salad bar. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a wonderful legacy. I mean, you look at the people in the game and some of the giants in the game. Mike Krzyzewski, who played for him at West Point.
That's right.
C.M. Newton was a long time friend, and was with him on that 1984 Olympic team. It's
a pretty darn good team.
Oh my gosh.
Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan. I think Wayman Tisdale was. I mean, golly, that team was stacked.
There's something popping around.
They beat the NBA All-Stars in an exhibition.
Yes, there are several things popping around on the internet that you ought to see. Number one, like on our Facebooks and everything, is a long clip. We don't have time to play it today. For his 50th birthday, they did a Joe B. Hall roast here at WKYT, and Knight just comes in. Look at it. He's got his hunting jacket on and everything.
It's like Columbo.
Oh my gosh! It looks like he just came rolling in from Walgreens or something like that. Mispronounces Cliff Hagan's name and everything.
Mr. Horgan?
Hegan. And he leans over to Joe B. and he goes, "You say his name is Hagan, and for God's sakes, he's my boss," and stuff like that. And then, it's just the people that were loyal to him were fiercely loyal to him, and he was fiercely loyal to them. But he went to school up at Ohio State.
That's right.
And very much like Woody Hayes, at the end of the day, he just got himself, and it was really sad. I believe he had been suffering from some memory issues in the last several years when he passed at 83. And they finally got him back to Assembly Hall and to get together with his players one more time. But 3 national championship, no question, a great coach. There was the infamous incident where he smacked Joe B. Hall upside of the head, and he and Joe were friends. They fished and hunted, and he did we were talking,
right.
He did a lot of hunting up in eastern Kentucky, but just I don't know how to put words to it. Yeah. Just a real
He was
a man of great contrast. How about that?
Oh my gosh, very much so. I've got a soundbite. This is the first soundbite that has Joe B. Hall in it, talking in 1984 when Bobby Knight and Joe B. were kind of the finalists. Two of the finalists to be coach
of the Olympic
team, and they go with Bobby Knight. The soundbite you're going to hear is from Joe B. Hall from back in 1984, and then you'll hear a quick clip from Bobby Knight, and then the final clip is from Eddie Sutton, who had an interesting relationship with Bobby Knight.
Way to put it.
And that soundbite is from 1985. So let's roll this first soundbite, please.
I felt that it was a very wise basketball decision. Bobby Knight is an excellent coach. When you look at his record, with 2 NCAA wins, the only active coach to have won the national championship twice. And more than that, Bobby is a good defensive coach. He's a sound offensive coach. He's a disciplinarian, and he'll have the team playing the best possible basketball that they can play. I was honored to be among those that was considered, and naturally anyone would like to be the Olympic coach, but I think the committee made a very good decision.
When you look at this many outstanding players, it is still very difficult to find that guy that can play the hell out of the defense, that is an excellent shooter, that doesn't throw the ball away, that knows what the hell is going on all the time.
I've known Bob for a long, long while, and I can remember when I first went to Arkansas, Bob thought I'd lost my mind. He said, why would you go to Arkansas? Why would you not wait another year? He said, you got to go in at Creighton, and said, there'll be a great job open, you'll get it. And I said, no, I think there's a chance there that we can build something. Well, Bobby came down that next summer and went fishing. We played golf, and then I took him down to Little Rock. And that first year, we'd only won 17 games, which didn't sound like very many at the time, but it was the most they'd won in 20 years at Arkansas. And everywhere we went, well, Bobby, the people were coming up and they were excited about basketball. And he was funny. He said, he said, whatever I do at Indiana, he said, it has been done before. But he said, you can build something here at Arkansas, and said, one day I'll come back and they'll have statues built of you. So I have, like I said, the greatest respect for Bob Knight. I think he's too often the media has treated him in an unfair fashion. He's got a lot of wonderful qualities that people don't know about.
And that was from 1985.
Wow.
It was prior to, it was right after, I guess, UK and Indiana played. And you mentioned there was a verbal exchange between the late Eddie
Was that
Sutton.
the last one?
That was maybe the last time Indiana came to Rupp Arena.
While Knight was last time Knight was coaching.
While Bobby Knight was the coach.
So what happened was on their last trip to Rupp Arena, many of you may remember this, but it was a big game, CBS televised game on Saturday afternoon. And Steve Alford was the boy wonder up there at Indiana. People loved him. And so he agreed to appear on a sorority calendar that was raising money for a nonprofit. Perfectly normal, legitimate thing to do, nice thing to do. Well, the NCAA at that time decided that it was the wrong thing to do. And so they were going to suspend him for a game. They suspended him for the Kentucky game. So you saw our buddy Tim Smile there doing the interview with Joe B., who worked with us. And Rob Bromley, of course, led our department at the time. And it was kind of like, do you ever remember watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom?
Oh, sure, loved that.
Okay, so there was this guy, Jim. Marlon Perkins was the host. And Marlon Perkins would always say, watch Jim wrestle the giant anaconda. And Marlon would just be standing back there in his Doctari suit. So Bromley sends me down to Rupp Arena Saturday morning to get a comment from Bobby Knight about Alford being declared ineligible. And I was about 2 steps in. He's like, get out of here. Coach, get out of here before this, And for Knight, he was perfectly nice about it. But then that night after the game, it was either that game or a different game.
December of '85, December 7th.
That would have been it.
He was suspended.
So this game, I'd love to know whether that was Knight's last game here, because at that point in time, we were doing a lot of stuff with Eddie, a lot of behind-the-scenes things. And so as Knight finished his news conference down in the old setup at Rupp Arena, you remember the old media room, right? And the the locker rooms were right next to each other. So Knight had gotten off the podium and was walking back to the locker room. And I mean, I don't know if you could see it. Bob Knight was a big dude.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, not only did he have a short fuse and he was loud, but I mean, he was an intimidating guy, even when he wasn't trying to be intimidating. And so he was walking back to his locker room, and Eddie was walking to the podium. And there were only 3 of us back there in the hallway. And he lit Eddie Sutton up. There was some disagreement that they were going to have Big Ten officials there or something. And I can't remember what the crew was, whether it was a split crew or not. But I mean, Knight just lit into him. And to his credit, you know, Eddie just said, Bob, da-da-da-da-da. You heard how he talked about him. And a lot of people had that kind of experience with him. They would fish with him. They would do all sorts of things socially with him and everything. But that did not mean that you weren't going to get or have that kind of incident at some point in time. And I'll never forget the way that Eddie handled that with an awful lot of class. And I would just say very respectfully that if it had been Brian Milam on the receiving end, it would have been one of those all-time umpire-player things where they would have been nose to nose. And
Jay Kepperling, you threw me out. I haven't forgotten that.
Well, not that you're still bitter about it.
Not at all. The late Vic Travis made a poor call at third. I got tossed and then yelled a few things that were not bad.
Right.
They were the truth, but some people don't like the truth. Quickly, Indiana lost to UK on this day. You're about to see a package that ran a long-form story, 2-minute story, that ran in December of '85. And that game, UK won 63-58. UK and Indiana played one more time at Rupp Arena while Bobby Knight was the coach, and that was in December 20th of '88, and that was the decline of UK basketball.
Would have been Eddie's last season,
and
right?
Indiana beat them to death, 75-56.
So Knight wouldn't have been complaining about it that
Correct.
night.
But we know Bobby Knight was known for a lot of stuff.
Volatility.
Here is a story that lasts about 2 minutes, and it aired December of '85 on WKYT.
The voice of the Cats, Kaywood Ledford, taped an interview with Knight before the game for use on the UK radio network. And in all the years he's known Bobby Knight, Ledford said he'd never seen the Indiana coach in such a sullen disposition.
On the morning of the Kentucky IU game, I attended the Hoosiers shooting practice in hopes of getting an interview with the Indiana coach, but it didn't take Knight very long to decide that I would be better off outside Rupp Arena than within.
Now, Knight didn't throw a chair at me, but he did toss a few explicit words my way, and so I quietly left to avoid Armageddon. But I returned that night to watch a coach who some have said has been mistreated by the press. During the game, I observed Knight offer encouragement to his players. If there's one word to describe Knight, it's intense. He has his students' undivided attention at all times. And have you ever seen a coach tongue-lash an official the way Knight can? In this conversation, he suggests the official use the instrument around his neck a little more. Knight really became incensed when, with a minute left in the game, Stu Robinson was called for charging Roger Harden.
Instead of a blocking call that would have gone our way, a charging call went their way, and that was probably the most important play in the game, because if it is a block, then there's a goaltend, and now there's a chance to tie the game up.
When the buzzer sounded, Knight briefly acknowledged Eddie Sutton, then jogged off the court to chew out an official. In his press conference, Knight refused to blame the loss on Alford's absence or the officiating. However, when Knight ran into Sutton on his way to the interview room, the Hoosier coach expressed his dissatisfaction with the officials in a conversation witnessed by WVLK sports director Tim Smile.
When they had talked back in the spring on the telephone about the game, Coach Knight had emphasized that they would have neutral referees, and Coach Sutton apparently had agreed, and Coach Knight was upset because there had been a Big Ten and 2 SEC officials on the floor. So Coach Knight took exception to that, and there was a little confrontation after the ball game. Nothing serious, however, but both men exited, I think, a little heated.
I got to get going. We got to get out of here.
A frustrating weekend in the Bluegrass for Bobby Knight. Jeff Howard, 27 Sports First.
Went right through that. Tim was right there at the door, and then I was out there in the hallway. I would differ with my good friend, Mr. Smile.
Joe, I don't know.
It was a little more than he did.
On this camera 5 over here, I don't know if you can zoom in on this phone. I had one interaction with Bobby Knight. This is in Riverfront Stadium, 1981. My dad has a baseball. There's one other picture I can't find just yet. But that picture is of Bobby Knight down the first base line at Riverfront Stadium. My dad gave me a baseball. He goes, go get an autograph from that guy. Well, I don't know who he is. I'm 7.
Well, the reason he did it was because you were the only 2 Cardinal fans in Riverfront Stadium, right? I mean, he was a big Cardinal guy, right?
You know, he was a big Cardinals fan and a fan of Tony La Russa.
La Russa?
They were really
I thought he and Herzog were guys too, kind of.
Probably so,
yeah.
But that was my one run-in with Bobby Knight in 1981 in Riverfront Stadium. My dad took me. My dad was about 20 feet, 30 feet away, and I'm thinking, well, why didn't you come? Now that you know who Bobby Knight is, he was probably not wanting a tongue lash.
Marlon Perkins and Jim. Watch Brian go get the autograph from the angry man.
Ever been in a Turkish prison there, Buzz?
Wow.
But anyway, so that's Bobby Knight. He passes this week at the age of 83, and certainly a wonderful man who did a lot of stuff that he did not want credit for, because I think it probably would have diminished his persona.
I think he liked the persona.
I think he did.
I think he liked the persona
too. Tonight,
that's what I was going to take us to. Yes,
go ahead.
Tonight,
high school football playoffs first round. Last night it started. It will continue tonight, and we will have highlights all throughout Central Kentucky, from Frankfort to Berea to
Paducah,
Georgetown, and places in between.
And remember, this is also Breeders' Cup weekend. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile later today out at Santa Anita, and then the Classic tomorrow. And of course, that event started here, has so much of an impact on people in the breeding and racing industry here in Central Kentucky.
For Dave Baker, I'm Brian Milam. Thanks for watching Facebook Live Friday. We will do it again in 1 week from now. See you then.